We're on the edge of the greatest era of exploration and discovery ever. Imagine Earth without the ocean. What have you got? You have a planet a lot like Mars. No ocean, no life.
We've always used it to convey waste, and it's not, you're seeing more and more of it coming back to us, whether it's in microplastics, heavy metals, it's toxins.
Scientists were amazed to find that micro and nanoplastic particles are down in the Mariana Trench and on top of Mount Everest.
And
that
in the
was a
Arctic.
huge discovery.
The nano stuff is clogging the filter feeders, so we're really kind of eating a dose of microplastic.
And not knowing it. Protect nature, especially the ocean, as if your life depends on it, because it does.
Dr. Earle, on behalf of ALLATRA and our international community of people from many nations, it is my profound honor to present you with the Honor of Humanity Medal. It is a symbol of our sincere gratitude and respect for your extraordinary service to the earth and to all life.
I'll keep trying. There's so much to do. We're right on the edge of the greatest era of exploration and taking care of this little blue place that sits right in the center.
Hello, it is a true privilege and honor to be here today for this conversation with two extraordinary women whose life's work has shaped the way we understand, explore, and protect our oceans. We are joined by a pioneer whose name is known around the world, Dr. Sylvia Earle, a legendary oceanographer, explorer in residence with the National Geographic Society, and one of the most influential voices in marine science and conservation in history. Her work has taken her to the deepest parts of the ocean and to the forefront of global ocean protection efforts. And also, alongside here, we have an honor to be joined by another remarkable leader, Liz Taylor, who happens to be Dr. Earle's daughter. Liz is a visionary in marine engineering and the president of DOER Marine. Through decades of innovation, she has helped design and build the technologies that make deep ocean exploration possible, bridging science, engineering, and discovery at the highest level. Together, their work represents both sides of the ocean exploration, understanding the ocean and creating the tools that allow us to reach it. From scientific discovery to technological innovation, their combined impact has helped redefine what humanity can achieve beneath the surface of our planet. We're so honored to be here today. Thank you so much for taking the time and for inviting us here. And the first question I would like to ask you both. You have dedicated a significant part of your life to the ocean, and it comes across not just as a profession, but as a very deep personal connection. I'd like to begin with this first simple question. What was it about the ocean that touched you so deeply that you realized this would become your life's work?
Well, I got knocked over by a wave when I was 3, and the ocean got my attention. But what really sealed my interest was, as a kid, my parents moved from New Jersey to Florida, and we lived right on the water. And rather than do what many kids do with sports or whatever, I had the pleasure of getting acquainted with the Gulf of Mexico, even before I had a face mask or flippers, just splashing around and getting to see the creatures along the shore. I think most children, if given a chance, are really curious about the world around them, about the nature of other forms of life, whether all forms of life, from cats and dogs, normal things that might be around where people live, to anything in the wild, birds, fish, little squirrely things, whatever. And for me, I did not think about making a choice. I was just hooked on the ocean because there are creatures there that I didn't see on the land. And I got to know them just by looking, because it was there for me to see. And it has just developed from then.
And for me, I've just always grown up around the ocean. It's been part of day-to-day life. We had, pet mollusks in the kitchen. We were pressing plants in the garage. So just kind of dragged into it from a very early age. And then just having a lot of time outdoors to explore. Back then, we didn't really have cell phones and tablets and things like this, so we were told to go outside and play. And so it was just a lot of that basic exploration and looking after the place, going out with a hand lens and looking at small creatures and tadpoles and little coquina clams on the beach, and then all the way to exploring below the surface, learning to swim and snorkel at a very young age, and getting first scuba experience at 9, and then spending a lot of time around public aquariums as well. So kind of taking care of some of the fish that would come through and really trying to see how do they adapt in captivity and how can they be sort of ambassadors for their kind to help people understand what lives in the ocean and other aquatic spaces.
I think I got to see the nature of fish as individuals by living underwater. With the aquarium was the ocean. You had a chance to get to know fish as individuals. Most people know fish on their plate, but you got to see them as creatures with whom you interacted, and they recognized you.
Oh yeah, they very much so would recognize me as an individual versus other people, particularly some of the larger grouper and some of the other fish that people just kind of think of them as protein, a pound of protein, but they're very intelligent animals. And they would, just come right over. When they'd see me coming, they'd come over and just look at me.
Sometimes they squirted water or splashed water on people they didn't.
They did. There's certain people they didn't like. And they would just take a big whoosh of the tail and send a wall of water out of the tank at them. So some of them were very, very much that way. And I got yelled at when I had my hand in the aquarium with the electric catfish. And I was cleaning the glass. And the fish really liked me. He never bothered me. And one of the senior aquarists was, you can't do that. He could shock you. But he never attempted to. He was always just very calm, and it never bothered me.
But he did bother some.
Oh yeah, he knocked a couple of people out.
It's the empathy that many seem to have forgotten about. I think kids are naturally curious and kind.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
But we encourage kids to be, to kill, basically. Let's go catch something.
Mm-hmm.
And Anyway, it's great to be in an atmosphere where people care. And often that's the case. And you had that direct experience as a kid. You were head of the volunteers for a while.
Oh yeah, led a big band of volunteers at the time when kids could volunteer. Now it's a big process, but back then you were basically just allowed to come through and help out with whatever needed helping with, whether it was feeding the dolphin, walking a shark.
It's incredible.
Things. Yeah.
And Dr. Earle, you often say health to the ocean means health for us. When people hear the word ocean, they usually think of whales, beaches, reefs. How do you explain to a broad audience today that the health of the ocean is directly connected not only to nature, but also to the human body, our food, the air we breathe, and the future generations?
Well, one way to create a recognition that the ocean really matters to everyone, everywhere, all the time is imagine Earth without the ocean. What have you got? You have a planet a lot like Mars. Mars apparently had an ocean long ago, but not now.
Mm-hmm.
There's water there, but not much compared to Earth. It's an ocean-dominated planet. 97% of Earth's water is ocean. Only 3% makes up rivers, lakes, streams, groundwater, the water in ice. Most of Earth's fresh water is locked into Antarctic ice. So when you say, why should I care about the ocean? No ocean, no life.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes say no blue, no green, which is true. We need all of the ingredients that make Earth habitable, but without the water, there would be nothing alive.
Just like Mars.
Yeah, and we do have to really think about all, particularly since the start of the industrial age, all that we've put into the ocean. So we've always used it to convey waste, wastewater, agricultural runoff, old munitions, all these things that we've just put into the ocean, just thinking that the solution to pollution is dilution, and it's not. You're seeing more and more
sure.
of it coming back to us, whether it's in microplastics, it's heavy metals, it's toxins, it's
agricultural
toxins, and it bioaccumulates in fish that people and shellfish that people might eat. And we've also seen a tremendous uptick in the Vibrio bacteria infections in people. When I was a kid, we were always told, oh, if you cut your hand, go to the ocean, it will help you heal. Today, it's like, oh, you have an open wound, don't get in the water. You could get a flesh-eating bacteria from it. And so we're really looking to track and understand where these areas of infection or health concerns can occur and try to do a better job of tracking them back to see what the point sources are and what we can do to clean them up through coastal restoration efforts, restoration of marshlands, and really allowing the planet to do that filtration job that it had always done for millennia.
For many years.
Right, and now we've got to do a better job of protecting open space on the land that helps us have better water quality.
Looks like we've disturbed that cycle.
Correct.
The planet was doing
really
very
good
well without our, our help, right?
Exactly.
Yes. And then also today, NOAA emphasizes that a large portion of the ocean remains unexplored. And as of June 2025, only 27.3% of the global seafloor has been mapped in modern high resolution, and less than 0.001% of the deep seafloor has actually been visually observed by humans. And Dr. Earle, you often draw parallels between the ocean and space, and noting that the ocean floor is less explored than the surface of Mars, as we mentioned. Which areas of deep sea life, the ecosystems, seafloor, or the microbial world do you consider the least understood today?
I can't say that I can give you a straight answer, but one of the things, I think the most important thing of all that we've learned about the ocean is the magnitude of what we don't know. So knowing that on my watch, we found not just new species, not just new families, new kingdoms of life. We don't know what else is out there since we've explored a tiny fraction of the volume of the ocean.
Very small.
We're on the edge of the greatest era of exploration and discovery ever. I mean, when you think the policies we have, the laws that we make are based on what we know. But we should be, now that we know what the glimpse of the unknown, we should leave some space for what we are learning. We've hampered ourselves in a way by locking down certain policies about how we use the ocean, calculating numbers of how many creatures that we think we could take safely and still have tuna and swordfish and squid and lobsters and shrimp and all those other things. But understanding that we really don't know how many there were or even how many there are. So it's an artificial kind of peace of mind that we impose. But if you understand that we really don't know, we should be cautious. We should be far less greedy. We've already taken about half of the volume of life that was in the ocean out of the ocean for human uses, partly for eating fish and other creatures, but it's also not knowing the consequences of our actions, the loss of so many creatures in the process of catching the fish that we are targeting. With long lines, we don't have a sign out there that says, only swordfish need to bite the hook. We've got a whole array of creatures that are caught and they die and they're just thrown away. That's one of the ways that we have extracted life out of the ocean. Another is when you drag a net across the sea floor, you only keep a fraction of what you catch. The rest of it gets dumped back overboard, dead. And right down the line, whatever is caught in the net, you look, drag a net through a forest. And what you want are the songbirds, but you destroy the forest and you only get the songbirds. That's how we treat what we take out of the ocean. Big nets catch lots of stuff, and only a small amount is actually taken to market. The rest is simply destroyed. We wouldn't do that on the land because you can see it. People would be outraged.
And in the ocean?
I'm one of those outraged about what fishing techniques have been developed in recent times as the technology enables us to do what we could not do before the 20th century, now into the 21st, and in the process being so destructive of life in the sea.
A lot of it's happened because, as you say, the engineering and technology has moved very aggressively to help us take more fish from the ocean, but it's also the advent of containerization and refrigeration and freezing at sea. In the past, you couldn't go offshore more than a few miles and grab a fish and then hope to be able to eat it safely at the end of the day because it would spoil. Now, you can capture fish in Alaska or krill in Antarctica and ship it, tens of thousands of miles anywhere. And so that whole industrialization of fishing has just created a very unfair and unreasonable approach to removal from the ocean.
And a disconnect between what or who you're eating and where it has come from and the impact it has. I mean, there are places, island countries, not all have behaved equally toward their source of food from the sea, but they've managed to maintain a relationship where they realize they can't take too much because then it'll be gone.
Mm-hmm.
They've developed internally with some cultures that have protected areas for the species that they take. It's just become part of their nature, that if you want to have them in the long term, don't take them all at once. Maintain security for them because that's security for you. But right now, with 8 billion people, taking wild animals, whether they're birds or squirrels or fish of many species, we have to think differently because we need to eat differently.
Mm-hmm.
Taking wildlife from the ocean to feed 8 billion people is simply not realistic.
Right, not at all.
We have to also think about the impact we're having on the natural life support system, living systems. With agriculture, we've converted about half of the land to grow either crops that we consume or plants that animals consume that then we eat. And it's happened largely in the 20th and 21st centuries, the massive elimination of wilderness, converting it to farmland and other human purposes, that we now face the real choice. What's the world that we want? Should we convert all of nature into farmland and cities and roads and all the things? Well, realistically, that's not possible because the systems that keep us alive, the natural living places that we think of as wilderness areas, that's our life support system. And it's mostly ocean. That's 97% of the biosphere. But we've only been able to get into the ocean and significantly extract, as Liz says. We've had the technology in recent times to go far beyond where we could 100, 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Safely, and to find, to capture and market and send from one side of the planet to the other through refrigeration in ways that were simply not possible before. And it's the marketing of ocean wildlife as seafood that has scaled up since the middle of the 20th century to now a level of extraction that it puts not just the fish and other creatures that we consume from the sea, not just puts them at risk, it puts us at risk because we're destroying the very systems that maintain the nature of Earth as a habitable planet. We're really good at taking and killing and converting the systems that keep us alive. Astronauts are smart enough not to mess around with their life support system. I learned very quickly using submarines, and as Liz knows, you have to take care of your life support system.
Yes, you need redundancy, and you need to really pay attention.
Yeah, when you're underwater, you're there as a guest. It is part of our home, Earth, but we're not naturally adapted for life under the surface. We have to rely on technology, just as astronauts do to go high in the sky. That's not our natural home either, but it is part of our universe. But we are blessed with the capability of doing what other really intelligent creatures on Earth haven't been able to do. Whales are very smart, and they have a long history, and they have culture. Same is true with elephants and our fellow primates. they've got a lot going for them, but no elephant has been high in the sky to look back and see the Earth. And even if they could see it, we have now the technology that has enabled us to know what we're seeing, to use microscopes and telescopes, computers and other kinds of equipment that gives us an edge, not just over other intelligent creatures, but when you think about other humans in the past, we're the first to have this capability. 21st century kids are the beneficiaries of all preceding history, coupled with modern technology that gives kids of today knowledge that didn't exist when I was a kid. I mean important knowledge, like what does Earth look like from space?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that microbes are part of us, each of us, that we can't live without them. We have a symbiotic relationship that makes our existence possible because of the little guys who help us digest food, that really serve as our immune system in very basic ways. We didn't know that when I was a child. We just couldn't know that. We had not reached the level of understanding, and we have so much more to learn about our relationship with bacteria, with other microbes that are so diverse and so abundant, they basically hold the world together. They existed, whole categories of life existed before there were creatures that had more than one cell. Like 2 billion years of existence of life before there were multicellular creatures at all. And it's no wonder that we have a very close, intimate relationship with these small creatures that basically rule the world. But if you don't know they're there and appreciate their functions, their relationships, we've developed any number of antibiotics that sometimes kill everything, not just things we want to have destroyed. And it's a balancing act. Of course, we should continue using antibiotics, but as we learn more, we can be more targeted about which ones we're aiming for. So it's like so much. We keep learning and benefiting from what we learn. And I think our best hope for the future is the kids, to the extent that they will take advantage of the knowledge that is there, that you don't always get in schools.
And use it for something positive,
sources.
right?
Yeah.
Right. You know, kind of recognizing the fragility of not just of the planet, but of human beings. You know, we are very fragile creatures at the end of the day, and it just takes a lot of luck and balance to keep us right in that sweet spot. And too much disruption, and we, you know, it's a very, very critical cycle. So I hope with all the knowledge that is now available, that people use it for good, and they kind of have a better decision making, better choices, you know, predictive analysis, this sort of thing, that it's not just sort of used to predict profits for next quarter, but really taking sort of this 7-generation view.
Or at least the next quarter century.
Take that 7-generation view of how will the actions we're taking today affect the capacity for the planet to support human beings in future, along with other biodiversity.
What would you change to help us better understand the ocean floor? What could be done?
I think the number one thing is to use that thing you carry around on your shoulders.
That we all have?
The curiosity that is there. It's there in humans. It's there perhaps in all young mammals. Maybe baby spiders are curious, I don't know. But certainly humans have that capacity. Just keep learning. All right. And for something to do, number one priority, I think, for all of us, everywhere. It doesn't matter who you are, what you know, or what you do. Protect the natural systems around you. Use whatever you've got. If you live in a place where you, for whatever reasons, have a nice grassy lawn, think about what other things could be grown there instead of just this
Monoculture.
cultural icon known as the lawn. Where did that come from? Well, I know where it came from. From raising sheep in Europe was a sign of prosperity, and a grazed area turned into a lawn, and it became fashionable. We need to make it fashionable to love wild things.
I really love seeing the trend where, you know, people are purposefully rewilding their garden, or a school is taking on a project, or a church, or even a corporate business park that is all previously just kind of lawn and sprayed with Roundup and kept everything very trimmed. But now they're coming through and saying, you know, can we attract caterpillars? Can we attract hummingbirds? You know, what can we do to create these spaces? And then protecting those zones. And everybody, you know, like piece by little piece can make a big difference that way. Across even a very urban environment, you can really create some little zones that are extraordinarily helpful.
That would be...
Even planting things to eat.
Yeah.
Sure.
We take for granted going to sources of concentrated food, grocery stores, or markets, whatever. But unless kids see things growing, how would they know where a carrot lives?
Yeah.
Where it came from, yes, absolutely.
Where do eggs come from?
Yeah.
If you've never seen a chicken,
Yeah.
I've
Where
never
does the egg
watched a
come
chicken
from?
lay an egg.
No, but it's great to see that I don't know, sort of a rebirth of the family garden or community gardens, these sorts of things.
Community gardens
And
are,
it's
I
really,
think they're
really
coming
important.
back a little
They
by
are.
little, yes.
So it's little by little, but each of those steps is so fundamental. And when you take a kid out and they get to pick a strawberry, or they get to, you know, gather a warm egg from the chicken, their curiosity just explodes, and they're just so joyful.
And you begin to appreciate where food comes from. I mean, it's surprising, shocking to me, actually. People equate fish as if it's just fish. At least 33,000 different kinds of fish. There's one kind of bird that we call chicken. There's another kind of bird we call turkey. There's some variations on the theme, but basically it's one, like dogs represent one species with lots of variability. When we talk about fish, we're talking about that kind of individual variability within species, but different categories. And the great majority that we consume are carnivores. And they are not taken like chickens and ducks, turkeys, cows, pigs, goats, sheep, that are taken when they're young, typically within the first year, when they're growing fast, and there's great efficiency of converting the plants that they eat to the animals that they become. So on that basis, it takes about 2 pounds of plants to make a pound of chicken. For cows and pigs and the other animals that we eat, it's somewhere between 15 and 20 pounds of plants. If you take these animals when they're young, and mostly we do, we don't eat old sheep, we eat lamb. We don't eat old pigs, we eat the ones that are within a year during this fast-growing stage. In the ocean, we eat 10-year-old tuna. We eat 100-year-old orange roughy.
It's shocking.
We, in some cases, not so long ago, turtle was common on the menu, but turtles can live 50 or 100 years. Whales, we only stopped killing whales commercially, globally, in 1986. But think about how long whales live, as long as humans. In fact,
Longer, no?
Yeah.
One kind of whale at least lives for at least 200 years. Wouldn't we like to know the secrets?
The secret, exactly.
Or
Exactly.
the Greenland shark that lives for perhaps 400 years. And anyway, what we take out of the ocean, they're basically carnivores. There's some exceptions, but they're not just a baby. A parrotfish can be 5 years old or 10-year-old. We don't have 5-year-old chickens.
No. But it's the concept that wildlife is free for the taking, right? And that's the problem, is that a farmer's not going to go out and have to pay to feed a chicken for 5 years or 6 years. They're going to try to optimize that timing of how little food can they feed it to get it to the market, and that that kind of whole cycle. And there's like an economic model they can follow.
One of the stupidest things that we grow are salmon. These are carnivores, and the efficiency of raising them is
Ridiculous.
we take a lot of wild fish to feed to
The farm.
the cultivated animals, and they're not taken in 1 year. We're trying very hard to be more efficient, but it's become almost as common as chicken on the menus around the world. Maybe not in the diets of people, but it's been equated so you can have some form of beef or some form of lamb or some form of sheep or salmon. It's the fish that
Very
you commonly
common.
see
Yeah.
widely everywhere. And it's new. Nobody could find salmon in markets in the 1940s or the 50s or the 60s. It wasn't until the 70s that cultivation of salmon really began to take off. And now it's in countries all over the planet, even where you wouldn't think you could grow salmon. We find clever ways to adjust the environment to suit salmon, like South Florida. Growing salmon?
crazy.
Are you kidding? And there's a market for it because, I don't know, we've been led to believe that this is a good thing. But taking wildlife out of the ocean, Liz, you mentioned rewilding the land. We're dewilding the ocean. We're taking wildlife on a mega scale and disrupting the systems that keep us alive, our life support system, the systems that generate oxygen, capture carbon, and maintain this diversity of life in the sea, which is much greater than the diversity of life on the land. When you understand that it's a three-dimensional realm, and there are about half of the known categories of life that exist only in the ocean, nowhere on the land. But all of the creatures that have representation on the land have at least some. Even insects have representation in the sea. So
And fungi.
we're terrestrial. We have a bias. But that's changing as we get to know the ocean
It's true.
and to appreciate the need to take care of it. It's our best hope for a long and enduring future for ourselves.
That's probably our mission, yes. And in recent decades, scientists have increasingly spoken about global diversity loss and even signs of a sixth mass extinction.
Yeah.
While these processes are actively studied in terrestrial and coastal ecosystems, as we mentioned, deep ocean zones remain far less explored. And are you observing, and you kind of answered it partially, but are you observing a loss of life in the deep ocean? And if so, what do you believe are the main causes?
We, humans, are the drivers of change. Changing the climate has an impact on everything everywhere. If you really want to change a system, change the temperature, change the chemistry. We're doing both. The ocean is becoming more acidic because of the carbon dioxide that we have turned loose through burning fossil fuels. And beyond a certain point, the ocean that has taken up much of that excess carbon dioxide that we've generated. But beyond a certain point, it turns to carbonic acid. And that's what's driving the acidification of the ocean throughout, top to bottom. It's
changing the composition.
And our ability to extract using technology that didn't exist until the middle of the 20th century and onward, we've gotten better and better at finding, capturing, and marketing ocean wildlife. The deep sea in particular, things like so-called orange roughy, like the so-called Chilean sea bass.
And I think most alarmingly, we're seeing a really big effort to scale up the removal of kind of fish and other wildlife from the mesopelagic zone, because those animals, they live very deep in the sea, but at night they come towards the surface. They have this huge migration, biggest animal migration on the planet. It happens every night, kind of coming up. Physically, their biomass kind of mixes the ocean layers and kind of helps drive down carbon into the deep sea. And we have countries now that are going out and trawling that zone, down hundreds of meters and catching and pressing oil out of these animals or pressing fish meal out of them, just not even considering how many species are there, but just crushing them into meal for salmon or into fish oil capsules for people that we don't really need. And there's also the really
not realizing their function.
Yeah, and
what
also
they do for the ocean and
the
There are
removal.
miracles out there, these incredible kinds of squid.
The squid
jellies,
is shocking. These
octopus
fleets of squid vessels visible from space with all their lights on, just mechanically jigging the squid out of the ocean, and both legal and illegal fishing that's going on in our
De-wilding the ocean.
Yeah, by metric
I mean,
tons.
seriously, tuna. It looks, when you go to a store and you see cans of tuna or frozen tuna or even fresh tuna, not realizing that you're part of the problem if you choose that as something that you wish to consume, but you don't know because it's there. You think somebody has figured out that it's okay. Otherwise it wouldn't be there on the shelf, would it?
Right.
But that's the power of marketing,
Right.
that we delude ourselves and then it's gone. It's not gone yet. There's still a chance with awareness of how fast we are consuming the ocean. There's the evidence that may be helpful, may be convincing enough to enable the current agreement among nations to protect at least 30% of the high seas of the ocean from extractive industries. Right now, it's a tiny fraction of 1%. Tiny, tiny fraction.
Right. And there's the new BBNJ treaty that's come online
It's
to help protect
just
the
last
high
year.
seas. Is it last year or earlier this year? Really is when it was really enabled. But now the question is, how do we enforce it?
And how do we first
That is
agree
probably the
on doing
biggest
it?
question of all time.
Right.
Yes.
And it is a problem, universally for small island nations. They have a big EEZ. How do they enforce the protection? How do they protect themselves from sort of renegade countries coming in and, trawling in the dead of night and just extracting things and running away? So there's a lot of this sort of, theft of, it's really wildlife trafficking is what it is that goes on. But it's legitimized.
Legal and sometimes illegal and unreported and unregulated. But
Right.
the subsidized, we're talking billions of dollars, are made available to those who go out to find, capture, and market ocean wildlife is part of the problem.
Right.
It's also part of the solution. And there's been an effort to try to bring back those billions and invest them into giving the industries involved a soft landing to figure out what else to do.
What else to do?
Same thing that we're looking at the oil and gas industries. is there a way to not destroy these companies, but to convert them to positive impacts rather than negative?
And we've seen it in action in some places, some of the hope spots. We saw it, we visited Isla Mujeres in Mexico a couple of years ago, and a local hotel owner realized that his diving tourism was dropping down because people wanted to come there and see the sharks. The sharks are disappearing. So he went out and he decided he was going to pay the shark fishermen to not fish for sharks. And so he paid them the same money that they would get for the shark. He paid them not to fish for the shark. And then he started hiring some of their family members to work in his hotels and to work at, in local companies. Found them other jobs in the tourism sector. And pretty soon, these guys, they weren't having to go out to sea. They came home at night at a reasonable time. The family's happier. The whole dynamic shifted. And they all had to turn in their hooks. And then they all had to come, put them in, no more fishing for you. Now you are an ocean, guardian. And the tourism dollars went way up. And it was like this simple model that really, really worked. It's just kind of restoring it, but leveraging the intelligence, the experience that these fishermen had, their knowledge of the area, where the birds were, where the sharks were, but now pivoting to a sustainable tourism model where people are now paying money. They want to go bird watching. They want to go down and sit down on the bottom, watch the giant bull shark come in.
Instead of killing them.
And that's a great example.
It was a huge example. So it was this story of kind of hope, but also determination to do something better and to really lead by example. And that's a story, that's an example that can be now applied almost anywhere.
Yes.
And it's really one of the things that we're trying to do here broadly with bringing...
Still a business, but with a good...
With a good, positive outcome for people and planet.
Nature positive.
Yeah.
And that's very good.
Yeah.
And the ocean is also one of the most geologically active environments on the planet. According to NOAA, up to 70% of all volcanic eruptions occur underwater. And yet most of them remain out of sight. We don't see them. We simply don't see how the ocean floor breathes. Have you ever witnessed an underwater volcanic eruption? And if so, was there any visible impact at the surface? And how did the marine life respond?
I've not personally witnessed it, but we have friends who have seen molten lava pouring out in Hawaii, for example.
Underwater,
yeah.
And
and I've seen the images from that.
Yeah, and it's quite spectacular. We don't realize how seismically active the ocean is. And what we really don't appreciate is the extraordinary risk that we face by not having the body of knowledge to understand where these fault zones are. Because one of the most dangerous things that can happen is you have a very large earthquake, and then it's followed by a tsunami. And that happens because, just as on the land, you have a very, very large earthquake. So what happens, you're followed by a big landslide. But you have an underwater landslide, a big seismic rift, and now you have the potential for a very large tsunami. And you can also get a lot of bubbling that happens at the surface. You can get the release of gases. If the volcanic eruption is a small seamount, is it going to become an island? Is it going to build into an island? Is it coming through the surface? And there's lots of stories of sailors that have suddenly seen the surface of the water kind of bubbling and boiling, and they're kind of, oh, is a whale going to come up here? And like, no, it's much worse than that. And sure enough, the seamount now starts becoming an island. But that's the nature of if you look at the Hawaiian Islands, you'll see some of the very old ones. It's just now it's like a little caldera, or it's an atoll, and that's where a mountain once was, but it's been eroded over time. So that's just the Earth rebuilding itself over millennia. And I think many of the fish do know, the same way that our dogs or cats will alert us ahead of time. And some of them will get out of the area. But in the ocean, you're not experiencing really that kind of shaking.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh, it's a weird wave, but the tsunami is the dangerous part for people.
I think even more dangerous than these natural events are the things that we ourselves have caused. Like when I was a child, plastics did not exist. And now, the children of today live in a world, doesn't matter where you live, or if you've never even seen plastic, plastic has reached you through the atmosphere, through the air you breathe,
atmosphere, the
the
air.
water that we drink, the food that we eat, because it's become commonplace. It's become normalized. Everything from buttons to clothing and
Everything.
all the wraps around food and cans and
Everything.
are lined with
Medical
plastic.
equipment.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we see it really kind of force multiplied whenever there's a large storm event. So even if it's a hurricane, if it's a tsunami, if it's a flood, whatever it is that happens, it always used to be just sort of debris from the land, or maybe it was some soil that was flushed out into the ocean. But now it's like an avalanche of plastics that's flushed out into the sea. And it's just
Or taken to sea like fishnets
yeah,
and gear. That's
gear,
more
derelict
than
fishing
half
gear.
of the plastic in the ocean is from discarded nets, lines. I mean, once upon a time, creating a fishing net was a big deal, hand woven. I've sat with fishermen who were creating nets. It's like mother and some of her relatives and friends made quilts. It's a big deal to hand make something as big as a fishing net that you don't want to lose it.
not anymore.
If it gets lost, you do everything you can to recover it. Today, with these synthetic materials, they're relatively inexpensive if you just are buying them. So you can afford to lose them. And they're so easy to handle compared to the handmade lines and nets that were in more common use early in the 20th century and through all preceding history of humans.
And they're incredibly persistent. We see some of the synthetics now that can exist, hundreds of years in the environment.
Absolutely.
They can easily just stay out there, and they become these ghost nets. So they capture fish that were never intended, or a whale becomes entangled, and they die, and they sink to the bottom. And then as soon as they decompose, that net comes back up again, and it continues this cycle of killing. Or it can just become entrained on a coral reef. And because those materials are so strong, it begins like sawing through the reef and creating damage, or it saws through the tail of a whale. There's the famous tailless whale that had a piece of line wrapped around its tail, and it just kind of, cut through and
It never
maimed the
disappears.
animal. No.
Plastic doesn't
You've got to go get
biodegrade.
it.
It just becomes smaller and smaller
Yeah.
and smaller and smaller, and it's always in our atmosphere. Scientists were amazed to find that micro and nanoplastic particles are down in the Mariana Trench and
Yes.
on top of Mount Everest.
And
that
in the
was
Arctic.
a huge discovery.
And in the
Yes.
Antarctic, far from
Far
where you'd
from,
think
yes,
they
they
should
were
exist.
amazed
Yeah.
to see. I mean, we're not talking about when they discovered even microplastic in the placenta and, all the human organs and so on. Of course, that's a different story. But yes, that's something that's a big problem today, and we recognize it as well.
Delineates us in geologic history, the pre-Plasticine
Yeah.
and then the Plasticine,
exactly.
Really, it's just wild.
And actually, when we talk about plastic pollution in the ocean, most people imagine something visible. As we talked about, trash on the beaches, floating debris, fishing nets. But looking beneath the surface, the problem of micro and nanoplastics is increasingly coming to light today. And a 2025 Nature study estimated around 27 million tons of nanoplastics in the North Atlantic alone, suggesting that nanoplastics may actually be the dominant form of marine plastic pollution. How serious do you think this less visible part of the problem already is for the ocean, for the marine life, and ultimately for humans?
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't.
That's the problem.
We have
There are some indications, but this is all new.
Yeah.
And it takes time to evaluate and see reliably cause and effect. And we're in the midst of that right now. But I think if plastics were essential to life in our system, they'd be there already. They can't be indifferent. They can't just be without some impact. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, we don't really know yet. We do know that we've seen examples of things like corals kind of starving because they're filter feeder. So they open up and they're bringing in the water and so forth, but they get this sensation of being full when they've taken in plastic in addition to things that are actually edible. So their resilience comes down where they may actually starve. We've seen the evidence with albatross chicks. The parents pick up plastic from the surface thinking it's a fish. They feed it to the chick starves to death. And you'll find the bodies decomposing, and it's just a pile of plastic in the crop of the baby.
These are the bigger forms that clog the system.
Yeah, that clog the system, but the nano stuff is the same way. You know, it's clogging the filter
Arteries.
feeders, the menhaden, the oysters, the mussels, the clams, the things that a lot of people like to eat. And in many cases, it kind of bioaccumulates in those animals. So we're really kind of eating, a dose of microplastic.
And not knowing it.
And
Well, the
absolutely.
higher up the food chain, like tuna, eats fish that eats fish, that, and keeps not just the chemical pollutants or the mercury that has been acquired by consuming it up the food chain, but the older, the larger the fish, the longer they've been accumulating, bioaccumulating. And it isn't just the nanoplastics, it's all the other stuff we put into
all
the
the
ocean.
other pollutants.
So it really comes back to that issue of awareness, and then how do we mitigate that? And of course, the best thing is to stop the flow of plastic going into the ocean or going into the environment. So
Stop consuming the fish.
you
You
stop
don't really
consuming the
have to
fish,
do that.
but also thinking about how do you really lessen your relationship with plastic across the board. Choosing recyclables, making sure that we really do advocate for. There are some valid uses for some plastics. Particularly in the medical field, or you have very durable plastics, like plastic food storage container that you keep for a generation in the family. But there's this disposable single-use plastic is really it's got to stop.
It's just
And-
so
and
much
the-
out there already.
The gear that's used to capture ocean wildlife should not be created in the first place, given the damage it's doing to life in the sea, wildlife, catching and killing, aside from the legacy of plastic.
There is some push now to use technology to put like a transponder tag on every single fishing net and every single
and
shipping
you can
container and all these things that are lost at sea, so that we could better stimulate going out and recovering the gear. Right now, when they lose a big net like this, they just say, the insurance company, I lost my net, write me a check. Now, if the insurance company said, you fishermen are on the hook, literally, to go get that net, or you're going to be charged damages for the environmental damage that it will cause, they're going to have an incentive to go get that net or to not lose it in the first place.
Return to sender.
Yeah,
Return.
but there's the technology there, all the different kind of little tracking tags and things. You track your iPhone, you can track your fish net. So there's ways to do it, but there's a lot of barriers to implementation.
Implementation and awareness. So even if humanity were to drastically reduce new plastic entering the ocean tomorrow, a major challenge would remain. The vast amount of micro and nanoplastic is already circulating in the water, air, and the food chains. It's already there. In your view, how important is current research focused on what can be done about the enormous amount of micro and nanoplastics already present in the ecosystems?
Again, big X factor, but in the ocean, clams and oysters and other filter feeders are, like it or not, cleaning up some of these little guys, concentrating them. It's a terrible thing to have caused problems for them as well as for ourselves. There is no easy answer. The first thing is stop the flow. I mean, that seems, let's take as much of the plastic out of the ocean while it's big before it is reduced to micro and nanoplastics. So at least, I mean, there are some things that we can do proactively.
Right.
I think even today we take out 0.01% of plastic out of the ocean, and we dump in more than 10 million tons of plastic. So the amount of what we take out does not equal.
It's not commensurate with what we're putting in.
And we've got to do a better job of dealing with the wastewater systems, because we see a lot of nanoplastics that end up being flushed into the ocean through shunting wastewater into the sea. So you have like a big sewage outfall pipe, by example, and a lot of microplastic is introduced that way because it's just come through our laundry and through our showers and other places where we might have microplastics occurring and shedding off. But the filtration at these plants
so tiny.
is inadequate.
Stop it at the source.
Yeah, so you've got
it's not studied.
You just can't catch it. They haven't really developed a way to catch it yet.
And Liz, your work sits at a unique intersection of engineering, accessibility, and ocean advocacy. What are deep sea technologies already allowed us to see that society still doesn't fully realize about ocean pollution, especially at the level of smart particles pollution in the water column and remote depth?
Yeah, so we see a lot of, we build here at DOER, we build autonomous underwater vehicles, robotic vehicles or remotely operated vehicles, and of course human-occupied vehicles, along with a lot of other samplers for testing sediments and water quality and so forth. So all things underwater. But it's shocking that we had a very large 6,500 meter rated remotely operated vehicle that we built for University of Hawaii. And on its inaugural dive, 4,000 meters test dive, we sent it down. We were all excited to see what we were going to see. Turned on the lights and the camera, and the first thing we saw was a Dasani water bottle at 4,000 meters sitting on the seabed, just as pristine as when someone threw it over their boat or it washed off from the shore. But it's shocking to see that, and the amount of debris that's just out there that we encounter all the time. We've seen everything from teddy bears to whole sea containers to fields of unspent ordnance, dumped ordnance. And then we've spent a lot of time with the scientists out at the Clarion-Clipperton zone where the deep sea mining is being proposed, and the incredible diversity of life that's out there. And we still see some weird plastic stuff that shows up once in a while, but just to see the incredible diversity of life out there and to think about the damage, the potential deep sea mining would cause out there would just be catastrophic. And so we really kind of look to these areas, and the more technology we can build to help have people directly understand what's there, what are the problems, areas that we should protect, and hopefully we build enough awareness to take kind of the precautionary principle around any kind of extraction in the deep sea, and to really think about what we can do to protect it. These shipping containers that fall off ships and dump things into the ocean, it's mind-boggling, the stuff that you find out there.
Oh, I'm sure it's everything.
It's just crazy.
And in your interview with Divers Alert Network, you spoke about data hoarding and said that we don't have time. In nanoplastics research, one major issue is the fragmented method and incompatible data. And in your opinion, how critical is it today to build an open, interoperable ocean data system that's including micro and nanoplastic level pollution data so that different teams can finally see one coherent picture instead of these disconnected fragments that we see today?
Yeah, well, along those lines, we're working with a company called Tanzel, and that's really their goal, is to bring real-world data together in a way that we can see it, create actionable choices, drive better decision-making. And we're actively looking for people that want to link their data into it so that we can pull things together. And we're really focusing, again, around the hope spots to see what communities are doing. Maybe they're all tracking sea turtles, by example. Now we can go in and say, hey, other hope spot, what are your sea turtles doing? What are some of the things that putting them at risk? Is it light pollution from new resorts? Is it plastic that they're eating? Are there bacterial infections or viral infections? How can we kind of start sharing information and not siloing it, but share the information across an invisible platform where we can drive better decision making and also drive policy change, because it's just dealing with hard facts. It's warm outside today, but no, it's 28°C.
Yes,
it's a fact. It is or it isn't. And having it in one place like that is a big project that we're working on right now.
That's
dissemination of knowledge.
Right.
That's where it starts.
Yeah, and being able to look at things like wildfires. Which way is the wind blowing? Am I going to be affected by smoke and ash? Is it going to go out over the ocean and create a situation where we might have a dead zone? But that being able to use real world data predictively to drive better decision making and to help us in an emergency as well.
And NASA has highlighted that your projects with Dr. Sylvia Earle demonstrate how ocean and space exploration can strengthen one another. When it comes specifically to micro and nanoplastic pollution, what tools are most urgently needed today for better mapping, autonomous platforms, deep sea sampling, new sensors materially, or do we need something entirely different to get this data?
Well, I think there's more sampling that can and should be done, starting in sort of municipal wastewater plants, this ocean and river interface zone, any place you have kind of a large body of water, freshwater intersecting with the ocean, it's carrying a lot of plastic with it typically, and a lot of other sediments and chemicals. So we need kind of a broader sensor network that's reporting in real time. But we also need to make sure that these sensors that we're building are not becoming part of the plastic problem. Because I see a lot of people are going, oh, I need the cheaper sensor. I need to deploy 50,000 little balls out in the ocean to take real world data, but then what happens to them at life end? So from a manufacturing perspective, I always, all my team here, we always think about, okay, we're going to build something, what happens to it at life end? And how can we make sure we recover it and that we build for adaptive reuse, or we build for recyclability of the product? So it's not just sort of build more sensors, but it build correctly. And so that we don't become just kind of another source of pollution.
Part of the problem, exactly. And Dr. Earle, you have supported the idea of recognizing ecocide as an international crime, which carries a strong moral message. So where do you personally see the line? When does environmental damage stop being a mistake of civilization and become something that can be called a crime against life? And what needs to be done to prevent crossing that line?
We face challenges of our own making. Whales cannot fix these problems. They didn't cause them. We did. And we have to figure it out. And I don't have straightforward answers. But I do know that we need to address them. But it starts with knowing that you've got a problem.
Right.
So there should be consequences.
Oh, yeah. And right now, wildlife trafficking, which essentially is illegal fishing, is wildlife trafficking.
And legal fishing.
And legal fishing is almost as bad, but the consequences are very, very low. And if you think about the ties that any kind of particularly illegal fishing activity has to other kinds of crime, so it can be arms trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking. Those things always are always kind of tied together, and especially the human trafficking aspect. We've done a lot of work with Ian Urbina in his Outlaw Ocean project, and he's very succinctly documented that there are people who have been literally kidnapped from small villages, small island nations, or assured a job as a nanny or assured a job as a gardener somewhere. And they get there and they find themselves out on a fishing vessel for years at a time and no contact with family. if they stop fishing, if they aren't doing the job, they throw them overboard. And they've got footage of people being thrown overboard and shot at sea because they weren't doing the slavery work of fishing. And it's a shocking problem. And it comes back to your table as catch of the day. And people just don't have a clue as to the huge impacts that it has.
Where it comes from.
Where it comes
Wow,
from. And there needs to be accountability. There needs to be policy that's very direct and succinct straightforward, that there are consequences for these kinds of activities.
In the context of protecting life in the ocean, could you describe the role your project, Mission Blue, and DOER Marine play today?
Well, Mission Blue was not meant to be another large organization, but rather something that could be supportive of the concept, awareness, to make people understand the nature of the danger we're currently in. It's growing, despite my wish that it not be yet another large bureaucracy of some sort. But we now have people in 116 countries, a lot of volunteers, some who are engaged with compensation. The idea being that they can be catalysts for change in a positive way, to be a voice for nature, to identify places that they know and care about and are willing to commit to taking from wherever they are to move to a higher level of protection, ideally fully protected, as in you'd expect of a national park. But any place, wherever it is, to get from wherever they are to improve circumstances, that's the goal. And it is happening, sometimes with success, engaging others, working with others to move to full protection of a place that matters for whatever reason. All places matter. There's no part of the planet that is superfluous. So anything that people can do anywhere obviously helps. And in some ways, the Hope Spot concept is inspiring others to be aware that they can make a difference, even if they don't formally fall within these areas that are outlined as a story map with GIS technology. This is, the company is Esri. Esri is a GIS based organization taking information and layers of information. We've done this for each of the Hope Spots so that it provides bases around the world, like field stations, that already are and increasingly will be gathering information that can be shared. And given the new technologies that enable going beyond where divers and most information has been gathered in the first 100 meters or so of the ocean, working with DOER, with the submersible technology, at least creating a model in French Polynesia during the coming year, a model that is, again, giving back something that can be financially productive, but at the same time, nature positive in terms of the results.
Right. So that is kind of the template model that we're working on in French Polynesia with the Tetiaroa Society and the Tetiaroa Hope Spot. And then, yes, we're bringing submersibles. Yes, we're bringing new kinds of training to the community, new jobs, new education, the capacity to take all that GIS data out there and load it up into one platform with Tanzel so that we can see big trends, what's going on with turtles in Tetiaroa, what's going on with turtles in the Gulf, what's going on with animals everywhere, but pulling all those elements together kind of in this community action model so you do get you get the data, but we've got to bring the technology in to help us get the data and to give people those direct experiences. And the submersibles are, of course, the most impactful piece of technology that we have, because Sylvia's done it. She's taken sort of the president of or the environmental minister of Ecuador down into the submersible, and he's kind of apprehensive and looking around, and the bubbles and the water's coming over, and then he's got the big smile, and he comes down, and then out of nowhere a mola comes through and kind of gives him the side eye. He's like a small child. He's like, oh my God, he's just so excited. But that's the fundamental change that can come with those direct experiences. And it's, as she says, with knowing comes caring. And so the more information we get, the more experiences we can show people, the more we can level up into thinking about how we take care of the planet as a whole.
I would like to see Mission Blue and certainly DOER with more submersibles. I'd like to see this seriously scaled up. And when I suggested, I think I used the word bureaucracy, I don't mean to imply that all the conservation organizations are bureaucracies. They're not. But I'd like to see the people who are on site given the resources needed to be able to explore, to gather knowledge and share it. We need to change the way people think about the value of the ocean. We're working everywhere, at every level we can, to just awaken people to how fortunate we are in the 21st century to do what none of our predecessors could even imagine. But we need people to understand that this does take, if we really want to speed it up, we need resources to deploy in these places where people are on the ground, actually living the problems and looking for solutions. And if we can make this happen just in the next 5 years or so, this is the speed that we need.
Yeah, honestly.
Because
we need to move at a very fast speed.
We need to scale and move quickly.
We're seeing a world really going in this direction. We need to shift it and tip our behavior, our understanding, our laws that are perverse and sometimes favor, because nature has a zero accounting base. It's understandable that we have taken ourselves in this direction, consuming nature as if it will always be there. We need to think, look, here's the evidence. We're consuming the world. We need to shift to understand that nature, a fish alive, has to be worth more than a dead fish, a whale alive, a 1,000-year-old tree, or even a 100-year-old tree. It's taken such an investment that there are values that we need to consider. Maybe turning that tree into board feet of lumber, after some consideration, may be the right thing to do, but maybe we just need to step back and think, here we are. Nature is declining because of us. What can we do, land and sea? How can we communicate problems and solutions? How can we inspire people to get out of their shell, to get out of the thinking that there's nothing we can do? We might as well just enjoy ourselves.
That's right. That's a terrible attitude, isn't it?
No, but that's
I can do something. Everybody can do something.
Yeah.
Nobody can do all the things that need to be done. But if people take the power they have and put it to work.
Yeah.
It's like we're all drops in the ocean, but together we make a whole ocean, right?
You make the whole ocean. And I love seeing people come through and I don't know, I've seen kids particularly, they're all over, buy nothing marketplace. They're bartering, they're exchanging. They're not just going out to the local big box store and buying the next, cool thing, but they're doing more thrifting. They're doing more buying used goods and refinishing them. So there is kind of a turn in attitude that we're seeing that it's not just about, running to the, the furniture store, but you could go and find
Something.
a vintage piece, right? And kind of buy something that has some meaning or some history to it.
Reuse.
And reuse, so that reusing, the adaptive reuse, and then using less, being more strategic, and buying goods. If you're going to buy something, make it a really durable good.
At ALLATRA Global Research Center, an important question for us is how to ensure that scientific knowledge does not remain confined within professional circles. We aim to connect research, public communication, and policy dialogue through reports, films, and expert discussions. From your perspective, what helps science truly reach society and policymakers so that knowledge becomes not just information, but action?
Historically, or at least in my lifetime, scientists feel that they pay a price if they step out of their lane and communicate with policymakers or the public at large. A shift in attitude is happening where grants that are given to support science sometimes include encouragement to take that knowledge that surely communicate it to your fellow scientists, but make provision for making the public aware of the significance of what you're doing. So it's changing, perhaps because of the overall awareness of the importance of making known climate science, not just to your fellow scientists. Like, oh, that's cool. You found out what? Great. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah.
But to tell people in language they can understand
Yeah.
Yes.
without compromising the truth. You need to have ways of expressing the nature of discoveries without exaggerating and without losing the significance. So I think it's moving in the right direction. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is kind of all those things. And as you said in your original TED Talk, use everything at your disposal, be it, books, films, music, any kind of medium, whatever
Internet,
you're good
whatever.
at. And
Like
but
you,
yeah.
working with you.
Yeah, exactly what
Be
you're
the
doing.
voice,
Is this
be the
communication.
magnifier.
We're really trying, and our big thing is, as you said, putting scientific knowledge into information that is accessible to every person, that
Right.
people can read and understand what
Should
it
be fun.
means, so that they can understand what's going on with our world, with the human nature, with the biosphere, and so on. Because
Right.
sometimes these researchers are written in such a language, it's very hard to understand and to see what's going on. And you're not going to read it. Even scientists are so divided, so separated.
Right.
One studies one field, another studies another field. But we need, scientific community that works
Right.
together. Because as we talked about, it's, we all live on one planet Earth. Everything is interconnected and interrelated, and we need to make sure all the science is, in one database that's accessible to all, so that we can study it.
Right. And be able to then, make better decisions. Yes. And not just think about how can we exploit this, or how can we get more fish per hour.
Exactly.
But how do we really do a more credible job of looking after our life support system?
And just to finish off, if you had the opportunity to address the entire world today, people of all professions, nations, and perspectives, scientists, parents, teens, decision makers, and those just learning to see the ocean with their hearts, what is one thing you would ask humanity to finally understand right now?
Protect nature, especially the ocean, as if your life depends on it, because it does.
That's how we always say that. But it's very true. You've got to protect the life support system, protect water, protect, the land, protect nature.
Watch what you eat.
Yeah.
Watch what you wear.
Yeah. watch your personal choices, and
Yep.
and when you find something that really works for you, you
Sure.
found that one Patagonia fleece in your closet you've kept for 25 years. Embrace it, wear it, tell the story, that you're still wearing it after all this time. Don't fall to the fast fashion.
Set a trend.
Set a trend.
Set a new trend, yes.
Set a trend and share it.
And, we just want to thank you so much. I just want to thank you for inviting us here today for this interview. We're so happy to be here. The whole team is excited to meet you. And you, Liz, thank you for setting this up. And we're really grateful to learn from you.
Yeah, well, we've really enjoyed speaking with you guys and really look forward to, continuing the conversation.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. The whole world.
Dr. Earle, we're so happy. Thank you so much for inviting us here today. We are so pleased to meet you. You are truly an amazing woman, an amazing person that has done so much for this planet. And Dr. Earle, on behalf of ALLATRA and our international community of people from many nations, it is my profound honor to present you with the Honor of Humanity Medal. This medal is presented in recognition of your historic and monumental contribution to ocean exploration, marine science, and the protection of Earth's living seas. Through your lifetime of pioneering research, scientific leadership, and ocean conservation, you have served humanity, the Earth, and the future generations. And please accept this medal as a symbol of our sincere gratitude and respect for your extraordinary service to the Earth and to all life.
Well, thank you for this beautiful recognition that I'm not sure that I deserve. I'll keep trying. There's so much to do. We're right on the edge of the greatest era of exploration and taking care of this little blue place that sits right in the center.
You are truly amazing, and we're honored. And we have a lot to learn from you still.
We all have a lot to learn from the ocean, for sure. But thank you, and thanks for what you're doing to make people aware of the magnitude of the problems we face, because it's only when you know that there are problems that you can find solutions, and you're doing both. Thank you.
Thank you so much.